All right. Hello, everybody, and good evening for you. Good afternoon here from Philadelphia in the United States. My name is Kevin Murray, and I am one of the associate directors of undergraduate admissions here at Drexel. I am also a 2015 alumni of the university and currently working towards my second Drexel degree in our MBA, Masters of Business Administration program. I support students who apply to Drexel from a couple of states here in the United States, as well as the entire continent of Europe, which is why I'm here to chat with you about the undergraduate admissions portion of today. And I'm here with my colleague, Evan. Evan.
Hi, everyone. So nice to be here today. My name is Evan Williams. I'm currently the director of the graduate recruitment section at Drexel University's graduate admissions level, so to speak. So I've been with Drexel, about 13 years at this point in a variety of different roles. I'm also a Drexel alum as well. I graduated in 2016 with my master's in public policy. So I have a little bit of insider information regarding the application process there.
Great. Over the next, I would say maybe 20 or so minutes, we're going to dive into a couple of topics in regards to holistic admissions review, basically the process with which admissions offices in the US review applications, and the elements of applications that are expected of applicants, both at the undergraduate level as well as the graduate level. Here's the sort of stuff we're going to go through over the next 20 minutes, and then we'll save some time at the end for any questions that folks have. As Sandra mentioned, please utilize the Q&A feature here in the Zoom webinar to ask any questions that you have at any time. Both Evan and I are pretty casual, so we might answer questions in the middle rather than saving them to the end, depending upon the question that comes up. But again, thanks for being here, and we'll get it started. Evan?
All right, so just to give you an overview of what we're going to discuss today, I know a big portion of this, as mentioned earlier, is going to be related to completing your application, because that's just kind of the time we are in the cycle currently for both graduate and undergraduate. So we're going to speak on different application elements, different materials that are required to complete your application. This is going to be specific to Drexel. You will find there will be overlap with the number of institutions you may be applying to or looking into, but I do want to give kind of the caveat that this is really going to be on Drexel's requirements, kind of as an overview of what we're looking for. So we're going to first go into the undergraduate application and the components of that, and then we're going to touch more on the graduate realm and what our departments and schools at the graduate level are looking for. We're going to speak on holistic admissions. At the graduate level, holistic admissions kind of our philosophy with this is to look at a student not just as the metrics, not just as standardized test scores or GPA or even grades of courses taken, but it's to look at the whole student comprehensively. So this would be from reviewing your essay to kind of see what your background is, what led you to be interested in these programs. Look at your resume for any work experience or prior volunteer work or leadership opportunities that you've taken part in. Also look at your letters of recommendation to see what other peers and mentors have had to say about you and your work in the past. We're also going to go into a little bit more detail on the essay and the personal statement and what you could do with these items to really make yourself stand out and paint a comprehensive picture of yourself in the admissions process. So I'm not sure if Kevin might have anything additional to add on holistic admissions before we go into the next slide, what that means in the undergraduate realm.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea of holistic admissions, just like Evan said so well, is that universities want to enroll not just GPAs and not just test scores, but actual people who will provide both quantitative and qualitative benefits to our campuses. Universities are like miniature cities. They have a lot going on our campuses, from obviously academic coursework to rigorous research, which is something that Drexel is well known for across the world, to comprehensive professional development, but also to personal development. Creating people as well is a huge part of the university experience, especially at universities like Drexel and many others in the US that are built around very comprehensive educational models that don't just focus on specific plans of study, but instead train folks how to be good overall citizens. And so something that we really focus on. So the reason that undergraduate admissions offices care about holistic admissions is that you are coming to our campus not to just fill a seat in a classroom, but to also hopefully be a positive and beneficial member of our campus community, especially for undergraduate students who are primarily coming to U.S. universities coming out of secondary school or out of high school. Some may be coming as transfer students from foreign universities or from other U.S. universities here. But the vast majority of our undergraduate student population steps onto Drexel's campus as 17, 18, or 19-year-olds, ripe, ready to be developed into competent citizens. So that's the reason why holistic admissions matters to us. It's not just the grade that you received in calculus in preparation for being an engineer. It's about the letter of recommendation that your calculus teacher wrote about how you fought through struggles that you had. And that's those sort of qualitative benefits are really the major reason that we utilize this holistic admissions review process. Just for some context, beyond the Drexel ecosystem, there are about 4,000 US universities and organizations of higher education. Many of them do utilize holistic admissions review in their process, but not all of them. Some universities will focus strictly on academic and quantitative metrics to make admission decisions, but many utilize this holistic admissions process to really understand people in more depth than just what's displayed numerically. When it comes to important elements of an undergraduate admissions application, I want to cover a couple of things here and then dive a little bit deeper into the essay, which is a hugely important part of any holistic admissions review process, depending upon the university that you're applying to. The first piece of an application to a U.S. university is the actual application. Most universities utilize one of three processes for applying formally to the university. Either they'll utilize a general application. The two largest ones are the Common App or Common Application and the Coalition App or Coalition Application. Some universities may have their own personal application that they use on their website as well. So those are really the three different places where you will give universities biographic information about yourself, demographic information about yourself, and answer questions like your activities list and what you've been involved in since you've been in secondary school. We also will always require, or almost always require, transcripts from your time in secondary school, understanding how you performed in the academic classroom to make sure that you'll be successful when you arrive here onto campus, or at least as sure as we can be. While we do care about the holistic person and who you are, and that's really important to us at Drexel and to many other US universities, if you're not successful in the classroom, you will probably also not be successful elsewhere in your college journey. So that first line of defense is making sure that you've performed well academically and will require those transcripts. Most US universities, just for folks to here to know, do require both original transcripts. So if your school is taught or instructed in Spanish, or if you're joining us from somewhere outside of Spain in another language, we'll require those original transcripts as well as translated into English transcripts. That's the most normal process, both here at Drexel and for most US universities. We also expect an activities list listing out the things that you've been involved in, both in your school environment, whether that's sports or leadership organizations, or outside of your school environment, whether that's a part-time job, volunteering in your community, summer programs at universities or with organizations, or working in your family and what you're doing to support those in your direct circle. All of those things gives us an idea of who you are as a person beyond just the coursework that you've taken in the classroom. We're going to talk a little bit more about essays in a second, so I'll skip over that star there and move on to letters of recommendation. Here at Drexel, we require 2 letters of recommendation for undergraduate applicants. one from a teacher preferably, and one from a counselor or administrator at your school preferably. Many universities have different requirements around letters of recommendation, from requiring none to requiring 3 or 4 at the undergraduate level, sort of on the high end. I would say 2 is pretty normal for most larger private institutions like Drexel. But just know that your recommendation letter does make a difference for us to understand a third-party perspective, just like Evan said in the overview introduction. The final piece of most undergraduate applications is around supplemental materials. So those can be portfolios of artwork. Maybe you're applying to performing arts programs, and that could include a tryout or audition. Those may include additional essays, which again, I'll talk about on the next slide a little bit more. But ways to supplement the other materials that are required at the university to help us understand you a little bit better. I purposely did not include standardized test scores on this slide because the standardized test score world, at least at the undergraduate level, is in major flux at the moment. So I did not want to set any standards or expectations for folks around standardized testing, but just know that there's a lot going on with SAT, ACTs, as well as English language proficiency exams and standardized testing at the moment. And my recommendation is to work with and connect with individual universities that you're applying to understand their standardized testing practices. Let's talk a little bit about essays at the undergraduate level, and then I'll transfer over to Evan, and he'll be able to talk a little bit about the graduate level. When you're applying to most US universities, many of them will require an essay of you. Most of those are essay prompts that you can see here on the screen through either the Common or the Coalition application. Those are the most normal prompts that you'll see from most US universities for your general admissions essay. A couple of things sort of off the bat to know. This is a 650-word maximum primary essay. And I say maximum because I would recommend trying to shoot closer to like the 500 to 550 word range. If you need that additional space to provide really important contextual information, that's okay. But I think a 500 word-ish essay is sort of the sweet spot of not being too long where it gets too much, but being just enough where you can provide enough information to us. Answering the prompt is hugely important. I always talk about this and give an example. If you walked up to me on the street and asked me a question and I started rambling on about my grandmother and it had nothing to do with the question that you asked me, that would be a little odd, right? So when you're answering an essay, please make sure that you answer the actual prompt that you've selected. As you can see here, pretty much all universities let students in this main essay select the option to submit an essay of your choice. So if you want to not answer a specific prompt, just select that prompt and you're totally fine. You'll be able to answer or supply whatever essay is best for you. I wrote here optional does not mean optional because many universities will have optional essays as a part of their admissions review process. And it's really important to take advantage of any opportunity that you have to tell a university a little bit more about you. We understand that the process of applying to college is long and strenuous and takes a lot of time and energy at a time in your life when you're already quite busy. So while I say optional does not mean optional, I'll put a caveat on that and saying that if you genuinely do not believe, or you've been told by an admissions officer at the universities that you're applying to that an optional essay is truly optional, that's okay. You don't need to submit them. But many universities will utilize the context provided in that optional essay to help them make decisions, especially with the admissions world we're in right now at the undergraduate level that has become more selective and more competitive than ever. That opportunity to provide more information at an optional level is recommended. The last little piece of advice on essay here before I talk just briefly about the process of writing essays is to please pay attention to what school you're applying to. Evan may know this as well from the graduate level. Most students will apply to multiple universities. We know that. That's not something that is a surprise to us. It doesn't hurt you to tell us that you're applying to other universities. That's not something that we do. But if your essay is all about how much you want to live in New York City, City for undergraduate studies and you're applying to Drexel in Philadelphia, that's not great, right? So really think about the way that you're writing your essay and the universities that you're applying to make sure that it is relevant to the universities that you've selected. The last piece that I want to mention here, that's not really on the slide, but I think is important to mention and is sort of highlighted in the first bullet point at the top. Many universities will also ask students to write supplemental essays, basically giving some more information about who you are. That might be for specific scholarships or specific academic programs, for research opportunities, or just for general admissions consideration. Supplemental essays tend to be a bit shorter. They can be as short as a poem or one line, or be up to about 250 words. So about half of a page or so is pretty normal. Supplemental essays are asked for very specific reasons. And the reason that I say that is because the universities are deciding what their supplemental essay prompts are. So if an admissions officer tells you the essay prompt, they built that essay prompt probably. So if we're asking you a specific question, it's because we want an answer to that specific question. So please feel free to complete those supplemental essays. It really can aid in admissions offices' ability to understand who you are as a person and ask those specific questions. One piece of advice before I transfer over to Evan on the supplemental essay question specifically is if you spend an extra 5 minutes researching a university's website for things that are happening there that are relevant to your plan of study, relevant to your academic interest or to your passions, and you include a recent piece of news or a recent interesting research article or a recent sports accomplishment at that university, that will really help your supplemental essay stand out. That one extra little layer of research that might take you 5 minutes to go on and find that Professor Evan Williams in the School of Business is really passionate about Spain-US relations. That little extra layer of research that might only take a couple of minutes can make a huge difference in those supplemental essays and how they stand out. One of my best friends in admissions works at the College of Charleston in Charleston, South Carolina, and they estimate that 75 to 80% of their supplemental essays every year are about people wanting to go to warm, beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. If everybody writes that, it's not helping you stand out from the application. So be sure to spend a little bit of time really personalizing that supplemental essay. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Evan, and I'll be back for the advice section in just a couple of slides. Evan.
All right, thank you so much, Kevin. So as we move into the graduate admissions realm, you'll probably see some of these things look fairly familiar. There is some overlap in requirements for undergraduate and graduate admissions. I already spoke a little bit about how we use holistic admissions at the graduate level, and really the reasoning behind that is especially because at the graduate level, you're going to find that the programs are kind of more focused, more in the realms of each college and school. So a lot of times the colleges and schools and even the department level will handle the admissions process. So you will find that a lot of the things they're asking for may be unique to their program. They want to make sure that the students are a good fit, not just for this major, but also for Drexel's program. So you may be a great electrical engineer, but do you really, would Drexel's electrical engineering master's or PhD program really be the best fit for you? And using this process really helps drill down to make sure that that is the case. So important elements to most graduate applications, the application itself. Drexel, as Kevin mentioned, there are a variety of application services out there. Drexel's graduate school, or graduate college rather, we use our own in-house application that can be found on our website for the majority of our programs, for both online and on-campus programs. There are a few outliers that use what are called a centralized application service. So those would be programs like our law school, medical school, School of Public Health, physical therapy, and physician assistant. I think I caught them all. But the great thing is that on our website, if it's not using our centralized application, we will definitely put a prompt there and give you a link to the proper application to use for your program of interest. As Kevin mentioned as well, transcripts are an important part of the application process. We do look for, at the graduate level, all post-secondary institutions. So if you've completed a bachelor's degree, an associate's degree, sometimes that would be equivalent to a national diploma, or even maybe a master's or another doctorate in another institution, we do need all of those transcripts. We do need a complete academic record for our incoming students at the post-secondary level. So any college or university you've attended. At the graduate level, we do allow for unofficial transcripts to be submitted in the review process. This is specific to Drexel. As I mentioned, like you really do at the undergraduate and graduate level need to research all the nuances of these requirements. But for Drexel specifically, we do accept unofficial transcripts. We would require an official copy if the student is admitted to our programs. So make sure you're gathering those up. The other important bit of information regarding transcripts is degree conferrals. If you have an in-progress program, if you haven't completed your bachelor's or master's degree, you can send us an in-progress application or in-progress transcript rather. But if you have completed that degree, we would look to make sure that there is a degree conferral as well as a date of the degree conferral on that transcript. Sometimes schools will offer a kind of a confirmation of graduation, like a graduation certificate. If your transcript itself does not have a degree conferral on it or a degree awarded, make sure you also submit those graduation certificates as well. For the CV resume portion, please outline both your educational background as well as any work experience you may have. Similar to the undergraduate resume, we would also look for any clubs and organizations you are a part of in your either secondary or post-secondary education, or even community work you may have done. Anything that would show kind of you in a better picture as a comprehensive person. Essay and personal statement, I did build out a little bit more on our next slide, so I will hold off on that just now. For letters of recommendation, the error we sometimes see, not necessarily an error, but like the thing that we would kind of be a little more, would give a little more scrutiny is if the letters of recommendation would come from like a direct colleague. We've even seen family members sometimes as these recommenders. We really try to steer students to get those recommendations from either an academic source or a supervisory source. So a boss at one of your employment places of employment, or an advisor or a faculty member that you've really worked closely with in a mentorship state realm or an advising realm. So that's really what we're looking for here, is a very professional or academic source, as opposed to somebody who's a direct colleague, a friend, or a family member. Supplemental materials, I did want to mention this. And again, I should kind of reiterate that at the graduate level, these are often very program specific. What I'm giving you is a very general outline of requirements. You may find that when you drill down to your specific program of interest, there may be one or two deviations here. There may be additional requirements, such as if you're looking for a writing intensive program, they might look for a writing sample or even like a published piece of some sort. They might be looking for if you're looking into the arts, they might be looking for a portfolio. For instance, art therapy and dance therapy would require portfolios and also an audition, respectively. So there are nuances there that I just want you to be aware of when you're researching your programs. And standardized test scores, once again, I won't go into great detail here. It used to be there was a time where GRE was kind of, that was the law. Everyone required that for graduate study. Now it is very fluid in that realm. So some programs require GRE or GMAT or different other academic-based standardized tests. Some do not, and it really does seem to be changing month to month as to who requires those programs. So I kind of like to say, when you're looking at the graduate application, this is kind of your first research assignment for Drexel University. So we're going to need you to dig a little bit deeper. We can give you kind of the outline here, but there may be little nuances as to what is required for each application based upon what these departments and individual programs are looking for. The one thing I will touch on is the English language proficiency requirement that still is required at the graduate level for applicants whose either undergraduate or graduate degrees were not taught fully in English as an English medium. So the program or the tests that we currently will accept include TOEFL, IELTS, PTE, Duolingo. I believe those are the four that we currently look for. So moving on to the essay, give you a little more detail here. Once again, requirements often vary by program. So what I tried to do was give you just a very general, what may what you may see across different schools. What I'd say, not necessarily the majority, but many Drexel graduate programs look for an essay similar to this. So just as an example here, please write approximately 500 words. Once again, there's some overlap there with our undergraduate team, explaining your reasons for pursuing a degree from Drexel. Include your short-term and long-term career plans, and also how your background, experience, interests, and/or values, when combined with this Drexel degree, will enable you to pursue these goals successfully. So, talk about what made you interested in the specific degree from Drexel. As Kevin mentioned, we do like to see Drexel-specific information here. I have come across, students that might list a different university, and it's not always the best look. But try to find some information about your program. Our faculty pages are pretty comprehensive as well. If you go onto your a specific program, you can often find a link to faculty who teach in that program, as well as what current research they're doing. So you can even say, I've learned about Professor X, and he is doing this research which aligns with my previous background incredibly well, and that's what made me interested in this degree. So we like to give you that opportunity. Once again, I often get asked if there's a word limit. Please try to keep it as close to that 500 words as possible. That we find that's most helpful when these, oftentimes our faculty admissions committee is at the graduate level, maybe 1 or 2 faculty members. So, and they're going through a lot of different applications, trying to keep it concise, but really painting a good picture of your background as well as your interest and your future goals is really what we're looking for here. So try to keep it around that 500 words. As I mentioned initially, and I'll mention again and again, for graduate, these programs often vary in what they're looking for. So there may be a supplemental essay requirement. There may be slight deviation on what the content of the essay is that they're looking for. So please review each program webpage. Make that a big part of what you do prior to even initiating the application. The good news as well is if there is any deviation from the standard essay, we will kind of notify you one last time on the application. Please refer back to your program page just to make sure you have everything correct there. So that is it for the graduate essay.
Thanks, Evan. And as somebody who has applied to and been admitted to a Drexel graduate program, as has Evan, I can tell you that the web pages are super vital for helping as the applicant to track what you need for your specific program. I won't make Evan remember exactly how many graduate programs Drexel offers at the moment, but it is, unless he knows.
For 120.
There's a lot.
Quite a few.
There's a lot of programs, right? So despite how smart Evan might be, it's not possible to memorize literally every single or present to you literally every single piece of material information. So those web pages are so important. All right, so some final advice here on the general process of applying to U.S. universities and our holistic admissions review process before we turn it over to all of you for any questions that you might have. This is a great time, if you do have questions, to throw them in the Q&A box so Evan and I can tackle them one by one as we're wrapping up our time together today. First, have a plan, a tracking document of where you're applying with their deadlines, their requirements, their release dates, any financial information that's important to know, their testing policies. Both Evan and I talked about how that's super specific to each university and each program within each university is really helpful to keep you organized. This is a huge piece of advice that I give to everybody all of the time in the college admissions process. If you can keep yourself organized, you will be much less stressed, and you will also not miss things because missing stuff in the application process is really annoying, especially when you've maybe paid money to apply or spent hours preparing documents. If you miss one thing or one deadline, all of that work may have gone to waste. So keeping yourself organized with a tracking spreadsheet is really important. Keeping up with deadlines and submitting early when you possibly can is a huge piece of advice. Every university has some sort of a deadline. It might be the day before classes start at some universities, or it might be a full year before classes start, depending upon the program and the university. But keeping track of those deadlines and trying to apply early when you can will benefit you to make sure that in case something weird comes up and we need something additional from you, it's not too late for you to get it to us. So try to stay on the early side whenever you possibly can. Read your emails. I know you probably get a lot of emails from universities all of the time. I know that I do even now. So I understand that you get a a wild flood of emails throughout the year, but please read your email. It's very important for you to keep track of your admissions materials and processes and timelines, to pay attention to your email. A big piece of advice that I can give you is, if you are getting emails from a university that you are not applying to or have no interest in ever applying to, you can unsubscribe from those emails at the bottom of the email. Don't tell our marketing department that I'm telling you that, because they wouldn't want to hear it. But it's really important to help you keep track of who you're applying to, so you only see the information and emails from universities that are a part of your list of applied schools, to really focus those emails. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Evan and I would not have a job if there was just computers doing our jobs. It is our job to help you understand the admissions process to Drexel better as admissions folks. And there are people like us at every university in the US who are here to support you. I promise you, we don't work in education to make money. I guarantee you that. We do it because we like working with students and doing the work that we do. So please reach out to us and let us know how we can help if you're applying to Drexel. That's really a big piece of this process. Engage with those around you. Don't be afraid to include your family members and friends in your college admissions process. While this is your process and it should be you reaching out to the universities and you asking questions and completing your admissions materials, if you need some help on writing an essay, asking your friends, hey, what's something unique about me that you think could be a cool essay topic? Or asking your friends who went to a particular university for advice on their experience there might be a good way for you to learn a little bit more and help prepare yourself better as an applicant. Also, remember that the process of going to university doesn't only impact you. It impacts the people around you and your family as well in many ways, especially if you plan on leaving Europe and moving to the US for college. So don't be afraid to keep them updated on your process, even if it stresses you out to include your family members in the process in some way. Remember that this is a change for them too. So be thoughtful about that, whatever is best for you. And lastly, and the last piece of advice, please take care of yourself in the admissions review process, the admissions process more generally. It is very long and stressful, and there's a lot that goes into it. And no matter what we do to try to make the process better and easier, it will always be a stressful process in making a major life decision, right? And it should be, right? You should spend a lot of time understanding the best place for you for college, whether that's at the undergraduate or the graduate level. So you should be investing time in it, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't find time to take care of yourself. Drink water, get sleep, and a great way to take care of yourself. There you go. Thanks, Evan. A great way to take care of yourself is by doing that tracking document and submitting things early. So you're not getting nasty emails from me an hour before a deadline saying, hey, don't forget, this is due. So please don't forget to take care of yourself. That's a really important part of this as well. It'll make you better equipped for life when you reach college. All right, I'm putting up mine and Evan's contact information here. As a reminder, I work with students at the undergraduate level. Evan works with students at the graduate level. We're happy to answer questions over email about Drexel moving forward, but I'll turn it back over to Sandra and we'll get the Q&A section going.